righty, so let's jump right in. First and foremost, who is Houston Arts Alliance? So Houston Arts Alliance, or HAA, is a local arts and cultural organization whose principal work is to implement the City of Houston's visions, values, and goals for its arts, grant making, and civic arts investments. HAA's work is conducted through contracts with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, or MOCA. HAA also executes privately funded special projects to meet the needs of the arts community, such as disaster preparedness, research on the state of the arts in Houston, and temporary public art projects that vitalize neighborhoods. The Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, again, we refer to them as MOCA. They oversee our work through a contract. Additionally, MOCA works to shape policy and practice in our sector. They advocate on behalf of the arts for essential resources and opportunities and help advance other city departments' arts and cultural initiatives. So what about our funding? What is the resource? Where does it come from? So our work is made possible through public and private funding. Private funding supports the Disaster Services Division, and public funding supports both grant making and civic art investments. So as artists and arts organizations, you may be interested to know that our public funding for the arts in Houston comes through the City of Houston through a tax on hotel occupancy. So when someone books a hotel room, a percentage of that tax is collected and is dedicated to promoting arts, culture, and tourism. This tax is called the hotel occupancy tax, also referred to as HOT. It's collected quarterly, and once it's collected, it becomes hot revenue and is available for distribution. So the hotel bookings turn into hotel occupancy tax. That becomes hot revenue. The City of Houston collects that revenue. So to distribute the funding, HAA facilitates, well, before I get there. So the hot revenue is collected, and then the City of Houston distributes that money to Houston Arts Alliance for us to distribute by way of a competitive grants process. So we have 5 different grant categories. So hot revenue allocations are determined by our contract with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, MOCA, and is split into 3 groups. So 74.5% is delivered in grants to the Houston arts community. 16.5% goes directly to Miller Outdoor Theater, and 9% is allocated to the Houston Arts Alliance for administrative purposes. Of the 74.5% allocated to grant making, an even distribution of 36% is allocated towards organizations with an operating budget under $10 million and for individual artists and creatives. The other 36% is allocated toward organizations with budgets over $10 million. And then finally, there's a 2.5% that's left and allocated towards Cities Initiative, which is a special grant program that is open to both individuals and organizations. So HAA administers 5 grant programs which appear in our common guidelines. Our guidelines are a comprehensive guide that provides prospective applicants with the information needed to apply for all grants that Houston Arts Alliance will be offering in 2023. Our 5 grant programs include support for artists and creative individuals. Individuals are able to apply for up to $15,000 through that grant program. We have our support for organizations grant program, and that is broken down into 3 categories: SO1, SO2, and SO3. We have our festival grant program. Organizations are eligible to apply for up to $10,000 for that particular grant program. And then we have cities initiative. Organizations or individuals can apply for up to $10,000 through that grant program. There is an opportunity to apply for more so long as a meeting is requested with the grant staff for us to be able to approve that request for over $10,000. And then last but not least, the reason you all are here today, we have our Let Creativity Happen grant. Individuals and organizations are eligible to apply for up to $2,500 for that grant program. Cities Initiative and Let Creativity Happen will have 3 application rounds this year. The first deadline is April 30th, 2023. Application submissions for this deadline should only include projects taking place after July 31st, 2023. The second round's deadline is June 30th, 2023. That will be for projects taking place after September 30th, 2023. And the third and final deadline this year will be September 30th, and that is for projects taking place after December 31st, 2023. Support for artists and creative individuals, support for organizations and festival grant programs will have one deadline this year with the application launching this summer. Make sure you follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter to be made aware of when they open. A few highlights about Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative. So these 2 grant programs will continue to be funded with cash in hand as they are currently. You can be awarded only once for Cities Initiative or Let Creativity Happen. Lastly, Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative have 1-year grant terms from the notification date. This means that you are required to have a public presentation within that year grant term, unless staff is notified of any delays in advance and an extension is granted. Please do not wait until the last month of your grant term to advise staff of any obstacles you might be facing. We highly encourage you to meet with us so that we can help and support you in as many ways as possible. Never hesitate to reach out because, again, we are here to help and support. You can email us at grants@haatxhelp.zendesk.com. All right, so let's talk about how to begin your application process. And this portion will cover information that's relevant to all grant applications, and then we'll discuss the specific requirements for Let Creativity Happen. To start, always the most important thing to read is the guidelines. So the guidelines provide dedicated instructions for each and all city-funded grant opportunities. By starting here, you will be able to see which grant program is right for you and what you need to be successful. It's expected that every applicant follows the same guidelines. Therefore, it is highly recommended that all applicants thoroughly review the guidelines. This document can prove to be extremely beneficial in increasing your likelihood of success. So eligibility requirements. Let's talk about who is eligible to apply. HAA staff reviews the following important criteria to ensure your eligibility and advancement to the panel stage of the process. First, all applicants must provide official documentation demonstrating a physical address in the city of Houston limits. It's important to note that PO boxes are not accepted. An individual applicant must be at least 18 years or older, which will be verified by the applicant's submission of an official state-issued identification card, a passport, or other official documents. To make sure that it's not confusing, if you are an applicant who is applying as an organization, you do not need to provide proof of age. But for applicants who are individual artists and creatives applying to Let Creativity Happen, you must be at least 18 years or older to apply, and we will ask for that submitted proof. Applicant scope of work must have a clear public presentation component that will be verified by staff, our review of the application. Applicants may only submit one application per grant program, per deadline, per year. So if you would like to apply for multiple grants, the projects that you are proposing cannot be the same. You cannot seek duplicate funding for the same project. For example, you cannot apply to both Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative with the same project. Submitting the same proposal to both grant programs can possibly affect both applications' eligibility status. Organizations or fiscal sponsors must be tax exempt under the Internal Revenue Code section 501c3 with its fiscal year ending 2021 filed with the IRS. And applicants must meet additional specific eligibility requirements included in the grant program guidelines. We will cover the ones specific to Let Creativity Happen today in our workshop. So let's break down some of the documents we're going to be asking you to provide in your application. So first and foremost within your application, your proof of headquarters or residency document is paperwork demonstrating a physical address in the city of Houston limits. A physical address is verified by staff through the online council member mapping tool, which you can access through the guidelines or by Googling who is my council member. Again, PO boxes are not accepted, and this documentation must include your name. So either the name of the individual or the name of the organization that is submitting the documentation. I want to emphasize the importance of using that council member mapping tool. Sometimes we will have applicants who, have Houston, Texas included in their address, but when you type it into that mapping tool, it actually does not fall within city limits. So I would highly encourage everybody to type your address into that council member mapping tool to ensure that you are within city limits and eligible to apply for funding. Acceptable documents that demonstrate proof of residence in the city of Houston for individual artists can include an insurance statement, a state-issued ID or driver's license, a phone or utility bill, a current lease agreement, or an IRS tax filing. This document must be addressed to you as the individual. If you are applying as a collaboration, one artist must be the lead contact for the application and submit proof materials for that one artist. Acceptable documents for organizations and fiscal sponsors can include mail from a government entity addressed to the organization, a current lease agreement, a bank statement, or an insurance statement. Again, that document has to be addressed to the organization. It cannot be addressed to the individual that is applying on behalf of the organization. The organization's name needs to be on that documentation. All right, let's talk a little bit about fiscal sponsors. So all sponsors must be registered organizations in the HAA grants portal. Once you've logged in, you'll actually need to complete the full organizational profile. For any technical assistance issues with registration, please don't hesitate to reach out to the support desk. We can help fiscal sponsors get their profiles set up in the portal. Here are some eligibility requirements for fiscal sponsors and should be reflected in the fiscal sponsor agreement that will be provided in the application. Fiscal sponsors must have 501c3 tax exemption status. Both the fiscal sponsor and the fiscally sponsored project must demonstrate residency within the city of Houston. The sponsor's board of directors must adhere to the highest standards of legal and fiduciary responsibility in its policymaking and governance of the organization. The sponsor's board must pass a resolution approving the fiscal sponsorship arrangement as expressed in the written agreement with the fiscally sponsored project. The sponsor must have a conflict of interest policy in place that contemplates conflict with sponsored projects and their leadership and provides clear direction for vetting potential conflicts and otherwise implementing the policy. The sponsor must maintain sufficient financial resources to assure continuous, uninterrupted operation and employ procedures and internal controls based on generally accepted accounting principles and regulations. The sponsor must evaluate the capability, potential, experience, and integrity of project leaders to assure a constructive, mutually respectful working relationship between the sponsor and the fiscally sponsored project. And these are all guiding principles and a list of best practice items for fiscal sponsorship arrangements. Your fiscal sponsorship agreement, which again is one of the documents that is required if you are applying under a fiscal sponsorship umbrella, will need to touch on all of these bullet points. And to speak to the fiscally sponsored project, so that project or that applicant will register as an organization in the HAA grants portal as well. The individual applicant or collective who has the fiscal sponsorship, like I said, needs to have residency in the city of Houston. Once that project is in the grants portal and has started an application, they will need to associate their fiscal sponsor to their application. This is done by selecting associated contacts in the menu on the left side of the screen when your application is open. You will search for your fiscal sponsor who would have already created a profile in the HAA grants portal as well, and you will choose their role as fiscal sponsor. Again, if you have any technical issues with setting that up, the team is here to help support and guide you through that process so that we can make sure that the application is linked properly. So after you have checked for your eligibility, it's important to ensure your project or program has a public presentation component. One of the items required by all of our grantees and applicants is a clear public presentation. The public presentation can be either online or in person. The event must be open to the general public, benefit or accessible to a City of Houston audience. Public presentations may be ticketed, but they cannot exclude the public or limit who may be a member of the audience. If the event has a limited capacity, everyone must have equal access on a first come, first served basis to be able to participate in the program or project. As an applicant, you must identify the publicly accessible virtual platform in your application if there is a virtual component. And to give you an idea, all HAA grants can help support art exhibitions, film screenings, music, dance, and theater performances, online art projects, literary readings and publications, local arts festivals, and of course, other activities. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is up to you to make sure that it is clear in your application what the project is. Be aware that any applicant whose primary programming takes place in K through 12 schools or is geared towards the youth must also have a public-facing event that is open and accessible to the general public of all ages and groups. If you are applying for public art proposals that require city permits or approvals, such as publicly installed art, street closers, sound amplification in public spaces, or murals, as the applicant, you will be solely responsible for securing the necessary permits, permissions, insurance, and approvals. And lastly, a nonprofit organization whose primary mission is not the public presentation or exhibition of art and culture, you should focus your grant application on public-facing art programs that you are proposing in the application. A few other requirements: we do pre-request the W-9 and ACH form in your applicant profile. This helps the staff, work alongside our finance team to process payments more seamlessly when decisions are approved. So please make sure that you upload that W-9 and ACH form. You will not be able to submit your application without those forms uploaded. And yes, fiscally sponsored projects, please make sure to upload a copy of the fiscal sponsorship agreement. Also, as a part of your application, you can upload a maximum of 10 work samples. These can be 5 image or audio files, in addition to 5 PDFs with links to YouTube sites or other websites, images, or manuscripts. This section is meant to demonstrate the excellence in the proposed project and the applicant's previous or current body of work. All right, so let's talk about the grants portal, Smart Simple. This is where you will go to apply for your HAA grant. So once you're ready to apply, you will go to haa.smartsimple.com. If you already have a profile, you can log in with your password. If you forgot your password, you can reset. And if you are new to the system, then you will need to register and create a new profile. Once you're in the grants portal, you've logged into your profile, you will click on organization profile for organizations or my profile for individuals to upload required documents and update your profile. If the point of contact for your organization has changed, if your email address has changed, please make sure to update that in the profile so our records can be up to date, especially if we need to reach out to you for contacting purposes. Scroll down to funding opportunities and click apply now when you're ready to start a specific application. So if you're applying to 2023 round 1, Let Creativity Happen, you will scroll down, look for that grant opportunity and click apply now, and it will take you to the application. All right, so once your application form is complete and takes into consideration the previous mentioned information, you will hit submit. Once the application is submitted, HAA staff will review the applicant's eligibility and application's completeness. We have a curing process that allows for some items to be fixed in the application after submission. And then eligible applications are then forwarded to a peer panel to be scored and ranked. Once we have the peer panelists' recommendations, applications are forwarded to the HAA Grants Committee, which reviews and votes to assure the process has been followed with integrity. From there, those recommendations are sent to the to MOCA for final approval. The Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, MOCA, the mayor will actually sign off on all recommendations that have been sent to them. So recommendations are not finalized until the mayor has signed off on every single one. So I mentioned curing in the previous slide, but I just want to touch on that process a little bit more in depth. So the curing process allows for some items in your application to be fixed. These items are either missing or incorrect documentation. You will be notified via email and will have around 5 business days to cure the application through Smart Simple. And just to give an idea of what some items, eligible items for curing could be, it could be maybe a blurry or invalid proof of age, or outdated proof of residency documentation. Same thing with organizations. It could be maybe an out-of-date fiscal sponsorship agreement, and we'll need you to submit an updated one. Keep in mind that applications will not be reopened to correct narratives, work samples, responses to questions, or budget tables. That is not, those instances are not eligible for curing. Failure to submit curing items on time will result in the ineligibility of the application, and it will not be considered for funding. So if you receive a curing notification via email, please make sure to get us the proper documentation by the date and time that will be laid out in that curing notification in order for your application to become eligible and move to the next part of the process. Speaking of the next part of the process, our peer panels. So these panels probably have the most significant job in the review process because their scores determine the funding ranks. So HAA uses the competitive peer review process to score and rank eligible applications. This is a long-time national practice of engaging community representatives with arts expertise and experience to make sure critical decisions about public funding competitions. The process of using a peer panel removes HAA staff and board and their immediate family members from the evaluation of grant applications, except for objective scoring sections. Panelists include a diversity of skills, self-identities, and experiences to ensure they can properly assess merit in each of the applications. HAA seeks to represent the various Houstonians and visitors that our cultural community serves. We seek panelists locally, regionally, nationally, and even sometimes internationally, globally. We do invite anyone with arts experience, arts expertise, or even arts enthusiasts to be panelists. You can visit HoustonArtsAlliance.com/HAA-panels to learn more. So after the panelists have created their list of recommendations, the grants committee of the board reviews all of the panelists' recommendations. They do not vote on the recommended grantees or award amounts. And then once those recommendations are approved by the grants committee, they are sent to MOCA. And like I said, after MOCA reviews the recommendation, the mayor makes the final approval on all awards before they are finalized. All right, now let's talk specifically about Let Creativity Happen, the reason why you are here today. So Let Creativity Happen grant category provides up to $2,500 for specific projects that amplify artistic creativity and innovation taking place in the city of Houston. Let Creativity Happen grants are designed to encourage artists, creative individuals, and organizations to take creative risk that may not qualify for more traditional funding opportunities. Awards will support innovative ideas that redefine artistic boundaries, reshape the conversation about art and art experiences, and or establish unique opportunities to experience art. It's important to note that for the last couple of years, Let Creativity Happen has been specific to digital projects. That is no longer the case. You are able to submit a digital project, but your project does not have to be digital. It can be either online, in person, and a range of public presentations are available for you to choose in how you want to present your project and program. Let's see. So specific programs and requirements, artists who work in an artistic capacity with nonprofit organizations may only apply for a project that is completely independent of their organization. For collaborations, again, one artist must serve as the lead applicant for the project. Contracts and fees will be paid directly to the lead applicant. And hiring artists or creatives to execute the proposed idea of one individual does not constitute a collaboration. Projects are required to have at least one public presentation, either in person or online. We're going to briefly run through what the funding cannot be used for. So funding cannot be used for any activities taking place outside of the city of Houston. Activities funded by Miller Outdoor Theater are also not eligible for funding because Miller Outdoor Theater already receives a portion of HOT funds. The activity must take place within the grant term. Any activity outside of the grant term will not be funded or might result in the returning of funds. As I mentioned earlier, grants made directly to K through 12 public, private, or charter schools, colleges, or universities, including collaborative projects or programs, are not allowed unless there is a public program that is accessible to a general public put on by the educational entity. That program cannot be exclusive in nature, i.e. only for youth participants. Funds cannot be used toward re-granting funds, for example, award ceremonies, cash prizes, or fundraising activities. Multiple submissions from different applicants for the same project and or multiple submissions to the same grant program from the same organization or individual applicant will not be permitted. For-profit entities may not apply directly. For-profit applicants may apply through a fiscal sponsorship with a 501c3 application, organization, however. Faith-based organizations cannot use funds toward primarily religious purposes or any activities that exist as a part of a religious sermon or service. Multiple submissions, I already said that. Yeah, sorry. Now we're going to talk about the review criteria. This is the criteria that you will see when you go into the application. This serves as your guidelines for writing the application. So there are 3 primary buckets or sections. The first is the artistic programming section, and here the applicant should demonstrate artistic and cultural expertise. You should detail documented past success and demonstrate the ability to execute the proposed activities that you are laying out in the application. The public programming should also be clearly defined in this section. In the public benefits section, applicants should demonstrate effective strategies in marketing and audience engagement that are inclusive, publicly accessible, and seek to engage all Houstonians and visitors. And in the stewardship of public resources section, the applicant should demonstrate the ability to steward public resources. The applicant should highlight appropriate preparation to complete proposed activities, and the budget should reflect feasibility with demonstrated investment in arts, artists, and local talent. We're going to break these sections out one by one. So specifically in the artistic programming section, here you're going to share a detailed description of the overall artistic program, the exhibition, performance, forum, artist talk, whatever your project is. You'll want to include details of the artists involved, the artistic disciplines and mediums involved, and what creative risks you're taking. The public benefit section is actually broken out into two different questions. The first is the community impact question. And here you want to address how you define your community, how your proposed work will shine a light on that community. And the community could be defined by discipline, geography, culture, or who you expect to interact with your proposed work. The other question in the public benefit section is related to a collective creative identity. And here you want to describe how your proposed work contributes to the depth and breadth of Houston's artistic and creative community, and its collective creative identity as a unique arts and cultural destination. The last section is the stewardship of public resources section. Here is where you will find the project budget, and you will also be asked to provide a timeline for the project. So please complete the budget table in its entirety and express how you intend to use the funds, as well as providing a project timeline that details your steps to launching your project. There's also an artist fee. There's also an artist fee question in this section. It's a yes or no question regarding artist fees. Please answer based on if you're paying yourself as an artist or other artists, or if you are not. Let's talk about the budget table, because you will be filling out that budget template, that table, if you are applying for a Let Creativity Happen grant. So this is what the table looks like. You will use the income and expenses table to report the full cost of your proposed program. If recommended for funding, the award amounts will follow the guidelines for the specific grant program to which you are applying. So in the income section, you will add all of your funding sources, including the amount you are requesting in the grant application. So in the first row, where there's that contributed City of Houston line, you're going to list your request under the amount of request column. That's the request of. So if it's like Creativity Happen, you're going to put the 2,500 in that section. In rows 2 through 9, you will list other funding sources under the other funds column. The columns will automatically calculate the sum, which will appear in the row labeled total. So in the expenses section, in the amount of request column, you should only list expenses that will be covered by the city grant. So you're only going to list expenses that you want to be covered by the Let Creativity Happen grant. Be sure to review the what may not be funded section in the guidelines to ensure only eligible expenses are listed under that column. And then in the other funds column, you should list all other expenses that will be covered by other funding sources. The columns will again automatically calculate the sum, which will appear in the row labeled total. And in the description column, you can use those text box to provide additional details about the income or expense line items that you have detailed in the income and expense sections. To touch on specific expenses not permitted, one, travel outside of the city of Houston is not permitted. Deficits, loans, interest on loans, fines, penalties, or cost of litigation, also not permitted for funding. Training included but not limited to classes, conferences, or workshops. The purchase of equipment exceeding $250 except rental costs directly affiliated with the funded project. So if you are purchasing to own any equipment, that purchase needs to be under $250. HAA cannot cover cost exceeding that. Rental costs can exceed $250. Capital expenses are not permitted, and meals, refreshments, and other catering expenses are not permitted for funding. Here we have an overview of the timeline for this particular round. So the grant opened April 1st, 2023. It will close April 30th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. In the past, our applications, the deadline has been 5 p.m., but we have actually extended that to 11:59 p.m. I will note that that does fall on a Sunday, and HAA staff will not be available to help with any questions that you might have, any technical support after Friday at 5 p.m. So please make sure that if you have any questions, you reach out to us, ahead of time so that we can help get you situated before going into the weekend. Once the grant closes, no application materials will be accepted after that date and time. So again, please make sure you reach out to us for support if you need that as you are going through the application. May 1st through May 12th, HAA verifies application eligibility. May 16th through June 5th, panelists will review and score the applications independently, and then they will convene for a discussion on June 5th. June 7th through the 15th, the staff will prepare award recommendation packets to present to the HAA Grants Committee, who will meet on June 2nd to vote on the approval of the recommendation packet. The Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs will have June 26th through July 14th to review the recommendation packet after the HAA Grants Committee approves it. And then our hope is to have grant awards finalized by July 17th, and we will be able to send out notifications regarding awards, ineligibilities, and declinations. So what happens after acceptance? Let's say you've received your award notification, you are getting a Let Creativity Happen grant, you're excited. You can look out very soon after the notification for a grant agreement, a grant contract that the team will send you for signature. Once you've signed your contract, the grants team sends the first payment information over to the finance department. Processing for the first payment can take up to 2 weeks for disbursement into your account on file. You will receive 80% of your grant award at contract signing, and the remaining 20% you will receive upon approval of your final report. You can submit your final report at any time over the course of the grant term, so long as you have documentation showing that the project has come to an end, specifically that the public presentation has occurred. And then again, the second or final payment comes after approval of your final report. To touch on the final report briefly, so a grant term lasts, a year from award notification, and the final report is due 30 days after the end of the grant term. There are 4 requirements tied to your final report. The first, work samples. You will need to submit images, links, and or videos documenting the public presentation that took part as a part of your project or program. You will need to submit a financial report that lays out a list of expenses that are eligible for funding and were covered by the HAA grant. You will need to post your event on the cultural events calendar. So that is a calendar that HAA manages alongside the city. It's an excellent source to promote your event to the greater city of Houston. And so not only is it a requirement that you post your event to that calendar, but again, it's also a great marketing opportunity and tool for you to advertise your event. And lastly, marketing materials. So all materials that you use to promote your event need to include the City of Houston seal and a credit line to credit the city and the funder. We have information about that credit line, and the logos available online at haatx.com/logos. You can find out all of this information regarding the final report at haatx.com/final report. It'll detail what a final report is, key guidelines to keep in mind as you're preparing to submit your final report, and how to submit your final report via Smart Simple. So you will submit your final report using the same portal that you use to submit your application. Here are our application deadlines for Let Creativity Happen in Cities initiative. Just to go over these again, the first deadline will be April 30th at 11:59 p.m. This is for activities taking place after July 31st, 2023. The second deadline will be June 30th at 11:59 for activities taking place after September 30th. And the last deadline will be September 30th at 11:59 p.m. for activities taking place after December 31st, 2023. Here is our workshop schedule for virtual workshops that we have scheduled for the year. Yesterday, we had the Cities Initiative workshop. Today was Let Creativity Happen. July 5th, we'll be having our Support for Organizations virtual workshop, followed by our Support for Artists and Creative Individuals workshop on the 6th, and our festival workshop on the 7th. Please, again, subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media. We will also be hosting in-person workshops throughout the city, and that's the best place to learn updates about where exactly those in-person workshops will be taking place. Reach out to us to ask questions or just to give us a shout out and a hello. To request a meeting or ask questions, contact the grants team through the online support desk or call 713-527-9330 extension 450. In order to find grant resources related to HAA grants, visit haatx.com/get-a-grant. Alrighty, we have come to our question and answer section of the workshop. So do we have anyone with questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. For the peer panel, is that the members of the peer panel, is that accessible to the public?
We do not advertise the names of the panelists. They're actually kept anonymous. But you know, I can say that they make up local artists, arts administrators, other funders, again, on a local, national, international scale. So these are mostly made up of, you know, peers locally, but we do have some regional and national input combined into the panelist pool.
Cool, thanks.
And if you are interested, I highly encourage you to fill out a form. We are in the works of building our panelists for the 2023 year, and we are always looking. So I highly encourage all of you on the workshop today, if again, you're interested and you have the time, to fill out a form, and we will be in contact with you.
So it looks like we got a question in the chat from Meera Krishnan. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I am a Virtual Arts for Humanity Board of Directors for the program. Can we charge a ticket price for public presentations?
Yes, ticketed events are eligible for funding. Again, it just has to be that everyone has an equal opportunity to access tickets to your public event.
Hi, I'm Varsha. I'm also from the Virtual Arts for Humanity board. And I saw in the eligibility that we're not allowed to have like a fundraising event. Does that mean fundraising for like another organization, or are we still able to raise our own funds to make the event possible?
So you are not eligible to apply for an event that is specifically a fundraising event for either yourself or another organization. And what was the second part of your question? Like of what could potentially be?
Yeah. As long as, I guess I was wondering, what type of funds are we able to collect? And if it's not like a fundraiser event.
So I would say, like, if you are an individual artist that is applying for funding, you are able to pay yourself with the funds that you receive. And if you're an organization, you are permitted to allot payment to the administration staff who is executing the event. So that's probably the safest way to ensure that it's not for fundraising purposes, but you are still able to benefit yourself as the artist or the organization.
Got it. Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, my name is Mira. Sorry, I just wanted to piggyback off of Varsha's question. I'm from VA. So I just wanted to make sure I understood the fundraising portion. While our program cannot be a fundraiser, can we still retain revenue from this program? Like, okay.
Yes, you can. So I would think about it similarly to the way that we permit ticketed events where folks can retain revenue from the ticket sales. Again, it just has to be open to the public.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
I also have another follow-up question, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So our current organization address is based in Sugar Land, but we are planning on holding our program in the city of Houston. Would that make us perhaps ineligible to apply?
So your headquarters, the headquarters of your organization would need to be in the city of Houston.
I see. Okay.
Because, so that's that documentation that we ask you to provide to verify your residency is based on where your organization is headquartered, not necessarily where the event will be taking place.
I see. And also follow up to that, can the organization address be a residential address?
Is it the address of a employee of the organization? So yeah. I would say that the documentation of the proof of headquarters for the organization, whatever proof you provide, it needs to have the organization's name on that address. So it should not be the name of, an employee of the organization that's using their address on behalf of the organization. It needs to have what we're verifying is that the organization's documentation shows an address in the city of Houston.
Okay. And following off of that, no, that sounds good. It's because we were founded as a virtual organization because of COVID. to help like performers during the time. And we've transitioned since then to in-person events. So we do have a basis in Houston and we've held events in Houston. But yeah, we were just clarifying based on that because we were virtual at one point.
Right, got you. Yeah, so if you're submitting like an IRS tax filing, maybe like your some government entity issued mail, it would need to have be addressed to VA, and then the address that is included needs to be within City of Houston limits. That being said, sometimes it's random. There will be an address that's in Katy or other outlying cities that is within City of Houston limits. So again, I would use that council member mapping tool to type in your address and see if you do fall within the City of Houston.
Got it. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
This might be a silly question, but on the budgeting, when we fill out the budget report and it says that funds can't be used toward capital expenses, can you describe what a capital expense is?
Of course. I think of these as like brick and mortar expenses. So renovating your headquarters, like the physical building, right? Anything that's contributing to the upkeep of the brick and mortar space, whether that's your actual home as an individual artist or the headquarters of your organizations, that would not be permitted for funding.
Okay, but like if that doesn't include the rental space for the event.
No,
right?
no, that does not include the rental space. Rental for the venue is allowable for
Okay, cool.
funding.
Thank you.
Of course. I would also encourage each of you, if you have questions about your particular project or the application process, we do have support hours Tuesdays and Wednesdays, where folks can actually go up and go in and sign up for 15-minute slots to meet directly with the grants team, so we can help you talk through any questions about your project, troubleshoot any issues you might be having in the grants portal. So after this workshop, if you get to working on your application and you run into any issues or questions, we are always here to help, and I would encourage you to sign up for those slots to talk to us, individually and directly about your application and project. And you can do that via the support desk link, and it'll direct you to a place where you can pick a day and a time to meet with the staff. You can do a Zoom meeting, or we can do a good old-fashioned phone call. And if you're interested, we also invite you to the office. If it would be better for you to come in and meet with the staff, just let us know what your preference is. Alrighty, well, if there are no other questions, we will allow you all to get back to your afternoons. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to see some familiar faces and also some new faces. I'm really excited to hopefully connect with you all as you continue on this journey. Again, for questions, reach out to us via the support desk. You can also call us at 713-527-9330, extension 450, and make sure to reference that haatx.com/get-a-grant for information related to our current opportunities, our upcoming opportunities, our guidelines, and other information that might be important to you as you're applying for your grant. Thank you all.